Hello, welcome to the channel. Today we will dive into Salem's latest turbulence as rekindled romances, fraught reunions, and combustible confrontations collide on Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. This expanded breakdown builds on verified spoilers for the day and the surrounding week, so every twist is grounded in what's airing, even as deeper context and forward-looking analysis explore what it could mean for the players involved. Salem in aftershock. The blackout's glow may be gone, but its ripple effects continue to expose fault lines in relationships and institutions across town, making every conversation feel like it could tip into a turning point. From hospital corridors to public plazas and DiMera boardrooms, Tuesday threads overlapping arcs that test loyalty, force confessions, and tease romance that refuses to die, even when reason suggests it should. Xander and Sarah edge closer. Xander's careful, incremental work to rebuild trust with Sarah pays visible dividends as the pair move from guarded civility into an unmistakable softening, the kind of shift that invites second chances without promising absolution. Spoilers underscore that he's making inroads, a phrase that in Salem speak usually precedes a truce marked by honesty and a boundary-setting pact, a rhythm echoed by recent coverage that flagged flickering romantic sparks between them during crisis conditions. If Tuesday locks in a new baseline, respect before romance, expect a measured rebuild rather than a headlong rush, with each small win mattering more than grand gestures for a duo who have already learned how quickly passion can burn down a home if it isn't grounded in trust. Why this matters for Zara. Reconciliation momentum arriving in the wake of shared adversity often stabilizes couples on days, because pressure cooker events force clarity about what truly matters, and Xander's progress aligns with that familiar pattern. Still, the language of inroads signals a ceasefire, not a coronation, which keeps narrative oxygen in the room for setbacks, rival provocations, and the ever-present lure of self-sabotage that trails Xander whenever his temper or pride outpaces his wisdom. Belle and EJ trap truths. Tuesday refracts Belle and EJ through the memory of an elevator entrapment and a confession that changed the week's chemistry. EJ's declaration of love put everything on the table, and confinement turned subtext into text with no escape hatch for either of them. That confession bleeds into Tuesday's tenor as Belle processes what was said under literal pressure, weighing her history with EJ against the costs to her career and moral compass, which are never trivial when DiMera schemes and courtroom optics intersect. If Tuesday is about triage, it's emotional as much as ethical. Belle can soothe in one breath and draw a line in the next, because the only way out of this elevator is through hard boundaries and harder choices. Belle pushes back. On purpose. Spoilers indicate Belle is firm with EJ, a phrasing that marks intention more than impulse, meaning she's choosing clarity over chemistry to ensure their dynamic moves on her terms instead of sliding back into a fog of DiMera charm. Given recent legal entanglements and the perception risks that shadow EJ like a second suit, Belle's refusal to blink becomes both personal stance and professional shield, a way to keep her name clean while gauging whether EJ can meet her where she lives, in daylight, not in shadows. The calculus of second chances. EJ's path forward is simple to articulate and hard to execute. Consistency over charisma, transparency over tactics, and respect for Belle's guardrails even when they inconvenience him, because anything less proves her point for her. If Tuesday ends with a détente rather than a grand romantic flourish, that restraint is the point. It keeps the story from sprinting past the real work of repairing a bond that only thrives if Belle believes EJ won't weaponize vulnerability the next time stakes rise. JJ confronts Theo, history that hurts. JJ and Theo's confrontation is the day's rawest thread, not because it surprises, but because it reopens a wound that never fully closed after JJ shot Theo in the line of duty years ago. A trauma that spoilers say still informs Theo's fear and anger. Even if forgiveness was once extended, triggers don't abide by old truces, and the sight of JJ in uniform can yank Theo backward faster than good intentions can pull him forward, which is why this plaza encounter matters as more than a scene. It's a referendum on whether healing stuck or just paused. The plaza setting amplifies the stakes because it puts family fractures on display, and nothing in Salem escalates faster than private pain made public, especially when pride rushes in to protect soft spots that never got proper care. What JJ needs to hear and do. For JJ, Tuesday is less about winning the argument and more about earning the right to be heard, which demands humility, acknowledgement without defensiveness, and an acceptance that apologies are down payments, not deeds of title to absolution. If he can hold space without pressing for immediate closure, this confrontation could lay groundwork for a cautious thaw later in the week, especially if trusted intermediaries reinforce that progress is measured in months, not moments. Jada updates Paulina, power and protection. Jada's briefing to Paulina slots into the hour as the practical spine of the episode, translating emotional chaos into actionable information for a mayor who can set tone and policy, especially in the wake of recent citywide instability. Whether the update concerns Theo's state of mind, JJ's status, or collateral fallout from the blackout, the intel-to-action pipeline matters because Paulina's response often shapes community narrative as much as any press headline does. Chad and Kat define the line. Elsewhere, Chad and Kat hit a turning point, which reads less like shock and more like a deliberate crossing from flirty limbo into declared status, the kind of shift that forces them to own what they've been doing in the margins. That clarity can be stabilizing for Chad if it anchors co-parenting and demerit politics rather than destabilizing them. But Tuesday's language suggests intention, not impulse, which bodes well for choices that won't unravel the moment pressure mounts. Cross-currents. How stories talk to each other. Belle's boundaries with EJ model the same discipline Sarah requires from Xander, while JJ and Theo demonstrate how old harm demands process, not shortcuts, and Jada to Paulina shows the public sector counterpart to private accountability. These threads move in thematic lockstep. Truth under pressure, respect as the currency of repair, and the cost of pretending progress exists because feelings momentarily improve after a crisis. What to watch for next? Keep an eye on whether Sarah defines concrete terms for Xander, counseling, co-parenting protocols, and honesty checkpoints, because that transforms inroads into a roadmap rather than a vibe. Watch Belle's language choices with EJ. If she shifts from reactive no's to conditional yes, grounded in transparency and verifiable behavior, then Tuesday marks the start of a negotiation, not the end of a romance, which is a different kind of hope entirely. Tuesday's likely endpoints. Expect soft resolutions with sharp edges. An encouraging Xander-Sarah beat that still respects scars. A Belle-EJ stalemate framed as progress because it's honest, and a JJ-Theo clash that hurts now to help later by naming what can't be ignored. Jada's update should give Paulina leverage to calm a narrative that might otherwise spiral, while Chad and Kat's definition moment signals that private choices will soon meet public consequences in demerispheres where nothing stays personal for long. The bigger week arc. Tuesday plugs neatly into the weekly track that saw EJ's elevator confession on Monday and builds toward midweek maneuvers with demerit deals, teen turbulence, and fallout that tests whether fragile truces hold under new pressure. As the week widens, look for ripples. When one pair tightens boundaries, another loosens them, and Salem's balance shifts accordingly, keeping every door cracked for reconciliation or rupture depending on who shows up with grace when it's hardest.